Welcome to Nourishing Maine. I'm Mary Kate Rennie.
And I'm Marge Kilkelly.
And we're going to make
apple crisp, one of the easiest fall dessert recipes there is. And it's been my fallback, if you will, recipe for a long time. And I still remember someone calling up and saying, hey, I'm in town, I'm going to come over and visit. And for me, when somebody comes to visit, part of hospitality is making sure I've got something wonderful for them to eat. And the quickest thing and the most delicious fall thing is apple crisp. So we are going to start with 6 all-purpose apples. To me, that means cooking apples or Cortland apples. So we have a wonderful bowl of apples, and we are going to start with apples. And
I think there's a blend of them in here.
There could be, yes. We've got a lot of apples. And some people may want to peel their apples, and some people don't peel their apples.
There's no wrong way in this
There's no wrong way in this one. So you peel and I won't, and we'll do half and half. How's that?
Oh, that sounds good.
And I want to show you how I cut apples, which is a little different.
Okay, well, let me get one peeled for you, and then you can show us how you cut them.
Yeah.
And the fun thing about this shot is that we're using apples because there's more to October than pumpkin spice.
There is.
So
pumpkin
apples
spice is nice, but apples are great. And you know, 1 apple a day is just not nearly enough. People ought to be eating a lot more apples. And they're a great Maine product, and they are available year-round, and they're affordable year-round. And that's also a really important piece. If you want to find an apple orchard near you, and most of them are open through Thanksgiving. If you want to find an apple orchard near you, either go to the Maine Pomological Society or the Department of Agriculture website, and you will find lots of resources to get great local apples.
And I've noticed that several grocery stores, most grocery stores, are supplying local apples or seasonal produce, and so a lot of times I've learned about a new farm that I didn't know about from just a regular grocery store. So that's wonderful that those are being carried there as well.
So rather than cutting the apple in sections that way, I just cut it and leave the core. And it's much easier then.
Leave the core for the compost or for our upcycling that we're going to do a little bit later with Joe.
Yeah. We're going to find out from Joe, what do you want to do with all these apple cores and apple peels?
I'm sure the goats would love them. I bet the goats would love them.
The goats do love them.
Yeah.
And the chickens love them.
Yeah. You've caught up with me. Not hard to do.
The other thing about apples is, again, it says 6 apples. I mean, if you've got 4 apples in your refrigerator or in your basket on the counter, then use 4 apples. You know, this is another one of the recipes that is just very forgiving and very flexible.
And I have a friend who uses pear in here sometimes. You can mix and match.
Yep.
They cook about the same amount of time, right?
They do. They do. Pears are lovely. I've never had great luck growing pears, but they are lovely.
Is Maine conducive to growing
It
pears
is.
or peaches? I know it was a lean peach year this year,
Yes.
right? So I've never grown stone fruit like that, so I don't know.
I think it was a non-peach year this year.
A non-peach year.
Yeah.
Well, good thing we're making apple crisp.
Yes, it is a good thing. It is a good thing.
I think this one's
And actually, again, from the University of Maine, in Monmouth at Highmore Farm, they have lots of test varieties in their orchards. And I mean, everything from obviously apples and peaches, but also cherries. And I've been there before when the cherries were ripe and they're just hanging off the tree. They're just lovely. So there are lots of things we can grow in Maine. I don't think we always recognize those things because we sort of think about just some of the things that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
But it's really great that the university is doing all that research and looking at what varieties of different kinds of things we can be growing. And
In the meantime,
growing,
in the fall, both blueberries and apples are phenomenal baking ingredients.
oh yeah.
Are these like a prize for the goats or the pigs or having the whole thing?
It's just easier. I'm all about
I
easier.
don't know. Was that 4 apples? Is that about enough for
I think
one more?
we need one more.
Okay. So it's not complicated spices going in here, though.
No, no.
Just your favorites?
My
Cinnamon. My favorite.
Cinnamon and allspice.
No clove.
No clove.
It does clove.
Well, allspice sort of has a clove kind of
taste.
flavor to it.
A little clove goes a long way.
A little clove does.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. So we're going to put, in these apples, we're going to put a teaspoon of allspice.
Have at it. I'll be there in a minute.
All right.
And
And I don't necessarily level it off. It's just, I like that spice flavor. And if you aren't so fond of the spice flavor, you certainly can use less.
And also,
Can't
once
imagine that.
I mean, either. And don't forget the best ingredient. Well, the second best besides the apples is the butter.
Yes.
And so you can always, once the butter is melted and stuff, you can always sprinkle different things on the very top as well. You're not going to overdo it.
Also going to add a tablespoon of white flour. This
To
one
make
I'm
that
a little
butter
more,
yummy.
careful with.
Yeah, don't need a lot of that.
And then 3 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Huh, I thought there'd be more than that.
Well,
Apples
yeah,
are sweet, though.
they are. And again, this is another one of those where I don't necessarily flatten it out.
Oh, I was going to say, follow the recipe.
Well, there's that too.
I'm really impressed with these measuring devices that you're using.
I do own them. Yes, I
There you
own
go.
measuring
And you might use
devices.
them.
I use them on occasion. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. There we go. I've got the last of the
I don't
apples for you.
overuse them though.
No. The eyeball test.
Absolutely.
There you go. Last of the apple. And then stir it up.
All right, so now we've added the apples, the flour, the sugar, and the spices, and we're just going to give that a good stir to make sure that all the pieces of apple are covered.
Yum.
And it smells so good,
I know.
doesn't it?
Smells like Christmas. So did these go
Yeah.
inside the whole shebang, or does it get sprinkled on top?
These go, the walnuts go in the topping.
Okay.
And the cranberries, once I put the
butter.
once I put the apples in the pan, if you want to do that.
This is easier than,
It is easy.
yeah, easier than pie. Let's not cut ourselves up too much. All right,
It
there
is
we go.
easier than pie.
It
though.
is.
I had my Aunt Marge was
That's good.
the pie baker of the family, and while I was named for her, I did not inherit her
Ability to pie.
ability to
bake.
do pie. Yeah,
All right,
much
so
as I would like to, but it just doesn't happen that way. So now we want half a cup of cranberries.
okay, I can do that.
All right, and just sprinkle them on the top.
Okay. And again, this could be.
Oh, it
If
can
we
be
really
more
like
or
them,
less.
we could do more or less. That's right.
And it could be raisins. But dried cranberries are just so wonderfully New
And they're
England.
tart, which really
Yeah.
complements the apples, I bet.
They're really lovely.
Yeah, that's plenty.
All right, so this is just going to sit aside
All right.
and do its thing.
Okay.
Next, we are going to start working on the topping.
Great. Melting the butter. Half a cup, yes.
Yes. Half a cup is 1 stick. Want it on a medium heat.
Okay.
Just having butter melting is a lovely thing. And in our topping, we're going to do 1.5 cups of oats.
Okay.
And actually, if you want to put 1.5 cups of oats in there,
Sure. And
That
then
would be
would you
lovely.
mix this in with the butter and then pat it down? Is that what we're
it's
doing?
going to be toasted.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, we're going to toast
A
it.
cup and a half, you said?
1.5 cups.
And this is a half cup, yes? Or a whole cup.
No, that's a whole cup.
All right.
I own the measuring devices.
You do. We just don't know what they say. 1.5. I bet this is pretty forgiving too. But
It's very forgiving. There you go.
you don't want too many though.
All right. And then we're going to break up some walnuts. We're going to take about a half a cup of walnuts
Sounds good.
and put in here as well.
All right.
Because why not?
I love them.
Yeah.
And of course, you could use
And they're so good
pecans,
choice. Oh, yeah.
pecans.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get into that. But
You could use sunflower seeds.
you could.
You could, you know, you could
Pumpkin
use
seeds.
pumpkin
I bet.
seeds.
Yep.
Shelled pumpkin seeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the story.
Pepitas. Right?
Pepitas.
Pepitas.
That's right. I'm going to go check on the butter.
You can do that. I've got this covered.
All right.
Otherwise, you can hear it.
That's why I needed to go
I can
check.
hear it singing my song, as they say. Oop.
There's nothing sadder than burning butter unless you want it to be burned.
Yeah. Well, there's that intermediate step of browned butter, which
Yes.
is heaven, and then you go to a dark spot fast.
It's sort of like making whipped cream when you have whipped
Oh,
cream
I
and
know.
it's right to that gorgeous thickness, and then all of a sudden it's butter. Yeah.
So we're going to brown these oats over there, yes?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm almost there. A couple more. Okay. Just pour it in there.
Yep. Pour it in. And while I'm stirring this, I just want to toast this a little bit, and you'll just sort of smell that wonderful toastiness. While I'm doing that, if you want to measure the brown sugar into that bowl
Of course.
and the spices,
How much brown sugar is?
1
Thank
cup.
you. Thank you.
I can.
Okay, topping. 3 tablespoons.
And so you're going to put more cinnamon in there.
Yes, we are.
So we're going to have cinnamon on the apples and cinnamon on the
That's
topping.
why. Teaspoon. Sugar,
So I've been
butter.
cooking apple crisp forever in my own little way. And so getting ready for today, I started doing some research and thought, well, I wonder, is this a really old recipe? What's the history of it? Well, it turns out that it's actually a fairly new recipe, and that it showed up in a cookbook called Everybody's Cookbook,
Oh, really?
a manual for home cookery that was done in 1924. And it was actually quite plain. It was flour and sugar and butter on top of apples. There weren't any oats on it. There weren't any nuts in it. And it was not a terribly popular dessert until World War II. And in World War II, there were rationing situations so that people couldn't get all of the products that they needed in order to make an apple pie. So they started making apple crisp. And in both England and the US, it then became quite popular. So it has not a very long history, but certainly an interesting one.
Well, and like you say, you use what you have, and this is a perfect substitute
Yeah.
for a pie or something fancier. It's got all the flavor, that's for sure.
It's got all the flavor, and it doesn't use, for example, as much flour
Or eggs.
or eggs or any of those
Right.
things. So, yeah. All right, so once this has cooked for about 2 or 3 minutes, and there's just this wonderful sort of toasty smell of the oats, and I use whole oat, rolled oats as opposed to quick cooking oats. I never have quick cooking oats around, so I wouldn't know what to do with them. And then we're going to add the brown sugar and the seasoning.
Yep. And then that gets brown, but also gets put back on the apples, and then you bake it a little longer.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, the cooking is the baking.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this just sort of gives it a start and makes sure that everything is melded together. And what we're going to do is we're going to spread this over the apples. And I'll bring it over. That's
You've
fine.
got it, and here's a pot holder to put it on top of. Need it? Enough room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it smells so
I know,
good.
right? Especially from up here.
Yeah. It is a yummy thing.
And I bet it's delicious for breakfast. That's what I'm thinking now.
It would be.
Right?
It would be. Okay. And we're going to take about a cup of water and just pour over the whole thing. Apples can be sort of dry and not have a lot of liquid in them. And so if you cook them without adding the water, they might not meld together quite as well. You can also use a cup of apple cider, which just adds a whole lot of flavor to it.
Right, but it softens it all up. Even the oats get steamed a little bit, so that's
Absolutely.
and it will create its own syrup.
It does.
Yum.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yummy.
right.
And in a 350-degree oven, and it will cook for about 35 minutes. And when you're testing it, what you want to do is take a knife and put the knife down through and see if those apples are cooked all the way through. And that it should be nice and bubbly and cooked.
And you can smell all the different spices
And you can smell
and
how
stuff.
wonderful it is.
Sounds
and
good.
now we're going to wait for it to cook.
Sounds good.
So now we have this whole thing. What are we going to do with these?
We're not going to bring them to the chickens?
No, I don't think so. I think we can do other things with them. And I think there's a Joe way.
There's got to be a Joe way. So Joe will be coming up next to show us what we're going to do with the cores and the peels.
Once again, this is the Joe way. I'm Joe, by the way. Apple pies, apple crisp, apple pandowdy. I could eat them all day long. Every day, in fact. Making them means peeling and coring your apples. You always have those left over. You can chop them up and put them into smoothies. You can chop them up, put them into pancakes, waffles, or muffins. If you don't have enough peels and cores to use at one time, freeze them until you have enough to make apple jelly. And that way there you get every ounce of goodness out of every apple. Again, that's the Joe way.
Thanks, Joe, for the Joe way.
We always appreciate those tidbits.
Now it's time to eat.
Yes, let's do it. It's looking great. Delicious. How
Apple
about that?
crisp.
Look at the colors.
And the smell. I mean,
know.
that's...
It's so like the water you added. Look at it. It turned
Yep,
right
it
into
turned into a wonderful syrup.
Yeah, and the apples would need that.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
I don't think I've ever added that after.
and cider. If you can add cider to it. Oh.
So good.
And then there's whipped cream, because nothing works without whipped cream.
Wait
Thank
a minute.
you.
You're
And now
not
we
getting
get-
away with that
What?
without me.
Oh, come on in here. Are you having a little dessert too?
You know, I bet he smelled the apples cooking all over the place.
You can't resist it.
Yes, I
Can't
did.
resist.
It's great. Come on in here. Have a bite with us.
There you go.
Hey, cheers to this. Hey. It's like a cookie on top. Oh,
Yeah, it's like an oatmeal cookie. I had never
is.
thought of that.
what do you think?
Excellent. There's never a bad apple.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
It is. Great job, Marge. Thank you.
Well, great job, everybody.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us on Nourishing Maine.